What's going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and it is time again for another creator interview. And I am thrilled to have Jared Lujan on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and you nailed my last name.
Yes.
First try.
Perfect. Oh, it's always like, oh man, I'm gonna butcher someone's name, and then you spend so much time focusing on that then like you mess up, like call you like Joe instead of Jared, and I'm like,
Yes.
but you are the writer behind the series Dryfoot from Mad Cave Studios, and we're going to talk about that. I'm excited to kind of hear more about that from you. But I always like to ask creators when I have them on. First thing I like to find out is, how did you get into comics? Like, where did this kind of start for you?
Yeah. So I sort of had like a weird entry into comics that people don't typically have. I got started in manga, which is usually like the opposite, right? People usually get into comics and then kind of work their way into manga, and I was actually the flip side of that. I had friends that were really into manga when I was like 14, and I kind of just got into reading what they were reading and checking out what they were reading, and getting really into the storytelling style and stuff like that. And that sort of led me into Western comics. And I was really around superhero stuff for a really long time, and I think the story that is that I spent 10 years in and out of comics, right? Like I spent 10 years where I was spending a ton of money on big two comics, and then I was unhappy, and then I would go back and forth. And about, God, 5 years ago, four, I got really into indie comics and the indie scene, smaller publishers, things like that, and that's what's kept me around since. So, but yeah, I got started off with manga, and I just got super into that, and it just sort of transitioned over.
Nice. So what are some of your go-to kind of comics, like styles that you like to read? I know you said you got into indie. Is there a certain genre of indie that you kind of drift towards, or?
Yeah, I really like science fiction.
Oh,
That's sort of like my general kind of safe spot for me. But I really like a lot. I have a really diversified taste. I think if it's really like my general rule of thumb is that it's got to be really good, like really intricate, really complex, or really dumb and big and bombastic, and like either of those sides, like I'm in it. Like I think I'm a huge fan of God Country. Is one of my favorite comics of all time. It's not science fiction per se.
right.
But it's got those good character moments, and it's just nonstop ridiculous. After like the first issue, it just goes for it, and so that's kind of the two sides of the spectrum I'm on.
Right. Man, no, that's great. Like, I think that's just cool. Like when we're talking to get to hear like creators of just like, what is your kind of draw towards comics? What do you like and what are you interested in and things like that. So I guess the question now is, how did you get into creating comics?
Purely accidentally. No, I really wanted to. So I went to college, and when I was in college, I was doing philosophy, and I really wanted to write things like that. And then I realized that I'm not smart enough to do that, and so I wanted to do fiction. And if I don't, I really experimented with novels,
Okay.
and it just wasn't like I wasn't having fun doing it. It felt really tedious, and it was really easy to be super critical of myself and what I was writing about, and it just felt like hard, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. So I really started to do comics because I love comics. I was really deep into comics, and then it's been something that, like, obviously I'd been lingering in for about 10 years. And so I really just decided to give it a really honest shot. And it's kind of what I loved doing it. It's just fun for me. I have a lot of fun, you know, I have a lot more fun scripting than I do writing prose. And then beyond that, there's like a leeway for comics where, like I was talking about God Country just a minute ago, you can get more ridiculous with it. And that's fun for me. Like it's sort of like you get to do these really cool, big, ambitious ideas that people would kind of throw out if it was a novel, or they'd cut it off and be like, no, this is probably not going to work in this medium. there's a lot more experimentation happening in comics that I really vibe with, that I really like I really want to try my hand at. And I really think it's really fun getting pages back at every step of the way. You know, I think the first comic I ever made was like a heroine. You know, I just got hooked. The second I saw those pages come back, and I was like, oh man. And then the second I saw the colors come back, I was blown away. And then letters, and like each part of it still feels really, really fun and really, really mind blowing for me. And it's just something, I'm just kind of addicted to that now. I'm just really into that process now.
That's awesome. So let's talk then about the comic that exposed me to you. Let's talk a little bit about Dryfoot.
Yeah.
What is Dryfoot about? If someone's never read it yet and they're watching this interview, what's your comic about?
Dryfoot is about 4 teenage friends who really want to get out of this violent and nasty streets and neighborhood of 1984 Miami's Little Havana, right? Mm-hmm. So they really want to get out of this environment. They want to chase their dreams out in Hollywood. And so together they hatch a plan to rob a local drug lord of a bunch of cash. And that's what it's about. You know, it's about those friendships and decisions and responsibility and loyalty and things like that.
Yeah, and I think I mean, you nailed it. Obviously, you wrote the book. So I would hope you would.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope I nailed it.
But it is cool to see, like, you talk about the intricacies. Like, this isn't just like, we're gonna rob somebody. You're getting to see the dynamic between the 4, young people as they kind of their friendship and what that means and the decisions that they make and the choices and how that affects everything, which I think is a really cool. It almost seems like the robbery aspect is starting to be kind of a side piece to help just follow along with these relationships, which is kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, I kind of, when we were going into it, I was really using the heist as the linchpin, right? The book is really about the kids. It's about their friendship. It's about their lives at home. It's about why they want to get out of Little Havana. The heist and the robbery is really the linchpin from what gets them from where they are in issue 1 to where they end up in issue 4. And that was something that's I'm really obsessive about characters. I'm super obsessive about it. And so that was kind of one of the things that I really wanted to put to the forefront is I really wanted it's a heist story, but it's really a story about these kids. And that's really where I wanted that focus to be.
Yeah. So how did you get connected then with this story with Mad Cave Studios? How did this comic get to happen with them?
Yeah, so I'm a Mad Cave's Talent Search winner. I'm from 2019. I think you had Stoney on. Stoney
and a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Stoney is like the most beautiful man and a beautiful soul as well. But yep. He won in 2018. I was the year after, and I got Dryfoot from the contest. They kind of reached out to me and they told me what they wanted. They gave me the setting and the characters, a baseline of info from the characters.
Yeah.
And a few ideas for plot, but I kind of took it in a little bit of a different direction. And which is really cool because Mad Cave was really, really, they were really, God, what's the word I'm looking for? Collaborative. Yeah. They were super collaborative. I said, I want to do this instead. And they were like, yeah, that's good. Let's kind of pursue that. So it was really, really. I really just got linked up from them with the talent search.
Okay. So was the talent search something that you were just like, hey, I want to try my hand at writing comics, so I'm gonna just enter in? And what was the process for you of kind of getting into that search?
Yeah, Stoney. I'm getting to bring up Stoney. I always drag him every time we talk. I drag him about this. Stoney was like, oh, I'm gonna try and give it a shot. You know, and he won because Stoney is super talented, super smart, and beautiful. I was in comics for 3 years trying to get somewhere with it, right? I was like actively, I almost didn't enter the year that I won because I was getting a lot of traction on Twitter with short comics I was writing and paying artists to work on. I was getting a good following. I was getting some anthology work. So I wasn't really thinking about entering the talent search because I'd lost in 2018 and to Stoney, you know, and but
Jerk. What a
yeah,
jerk.
yeah, he can't just have a nice beard. He also has to take the talent search, you know. Uh, but Anthony Cleveland, who is another talent search winner, he wrote Stargazer and Shozen. He and I have been friends for several years before he ever won the talent search, and he had mentioned to me that he really that I should give it a shot. He really likes the people at Mad Cave. Uh, he thinks that it would be good. He thought it would be good for me and to give it a shot. And so about maybe like a week or two out, I kind of put something together and really obsessively wrote it. I tell that story and people always think that I just kind of like nonchalantly threw something together. I was really obsessive about it and put it together, submitted it, and I won. And so, but yeah, I had been in comics for 2 or 3 years by the time that I'd won in 2019. I think it was 3 or 4 actually. Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Like, it just everyone's paths are so different and unique. And then I think with everything, your comic came out. Both your guys' comics though came out around the same time.
Yeah, Stoney had a little bit of bad luck. He just had a bit of bad luck. But you know, the ultimate thing is that the work is good, right?
Yep.
And Villainous is very good. He's got all people that are almost a cultish following around Tilly, and so I mean I'm really glad. I like Jeff a lot too, the artist on Villainous. I really like Jeff. I like his art style. So you know, it sucked that it took so long for Villainous to came out. And I know that's hard because you know Dryfoot got delayed like at the beginning of the pandemic. I think it got delayed 6 months.
Yeah.
But Stoney's been in the wings he was in the wings for like a year. So you know he was patient and it paid off.
Yeah. So Dryfoot won. I have to ask, how cool was it that you got a second printing of Dryfoot 1?
Oh, it was insane. it was it was nuts. I spent hours. I have spent hours of my life emailing comic shops, Dryfoot PDFs, and talking to them about it. Dryfoot getting a second printing was number one was insane, and it was really really cool. Yeah, I don't even have the words for it to tell you the truth. It was really one of those moments that I was really hoping for, and because I believed in the book, I believed in the work we did, and it was crazy to see it pay off. And everybody was psyched, like from Mad Cave side to my friends to people who liked the book. Everybody, there was like this whole, when it got announced, there was just this big wave of energy and everybody was excited. It was really, really great. It was definitely one of the best moments of my entire life, is that week that it got announced. It was just amazing.
That's awesome. And I have to say, like, I never buy second printings, but when I saw that cover coming out, I was like, how could I not get that? That is just goes so hard. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the guy who did our logo, Miguel Zapata, he's the one that drew Miguel Zapata is apparently really good at everything, but he's a graphic design, lettering, and he's an artist, and he did our second cover print, the Scarface cover, and it's super good. It's just great. It's a really good cover. I really like that they changed the logo for it too.
Yep.
It was great. It's an amazing cover.
That's awesome. So we talked a little bit about Dryfoot. We talked about the relationships. How long is this kind of world going on? You know, how many comics do you have this planned out for? And what's your kind of expectations of the Dryfoot universe?
Right now, we have 4 issues done and completed, and as far as I am currently concerned, that's the conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Dryfoot 3 coming out today, and then Dryfoot 4 in December. But as far as I'm concerned, like it's done. I'm happy where the story ends.
Yeah.
And I'd like, but if Mad Cave came back and said, hey, we want to bring the entire team back, because I love the art team. Orlando Caicedo on inks, Warnia Sahadewa on colors, Justin Birch on letters. I love all of those people. They did such great work on the book. They were such a great collaborative team. And if they told me that they wanted to bring everybody back for a second volume, I'd figure something out. But it's right now, as far as I'm concerned, right now it's over after 4.
Which is, you know, it's always interesting because sometimes you'll hear people say like, I'm happy with where I'm going to be able to take it, or others like, well, if people like it, we'll keep it going. But it's nice to, sometimes I think that you can have like, no, this is the story I want to tell, and sure, you can probably dip your toe back in if you need to, but this is where you're at and you're happy with it. So I think that's kind of cool to have that perspective too.
Yeah, I think stories should be allowed to end.
Yeah.
And I think that the way Dryfoot ends is really, it feels very final. I think there's enough stuff like that we leave off on that, there's enough questions where we could adventure back into it. But it's one of those endings where if you're like, yeah, this is the last book I ever read, they're good enough questions where the reader can kind of fill in the blanks on their own.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really, really happy with where it ends after 4 issues. So yeah, but like I said, if they came calling with the exact same team, it'd be a hard thing for me to say no to.
So what then do you have in store for your comic book world after Dryfoot? Do you have anything in the works now? Do you have ideas for future? What's in store?
2021 is a big year. Thankfully, I'm extremely grateful to be able to say that. But in 2021, I have another miniseries coming out from a different publisher.
Okay.
And that's going to probably hit solicits early 2021. We're about done with the entire series. So fingers crossed that's going to be something that we can all talk about soon.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got a Kickstarter project that I'm working on that will be on Kickstarter by March or April of 2021. So that's a really big, bombastic, fun book that I'm really excited to bring to people. So we're gonna have that out by the summer, I'm presuming, right now.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a really fun book. I've also got a big story in Black Hole's project that was a Cold Dark Universe that just got funded. So it's an anthology about positive sci-fi stories, like hopeful about the universe and things like that. That will be getting to backers, I presume, early, January, February, maybe into the spring. First quarter of 2021, I believe, is the goal. That just got funded, so that's definitely happening. I also have a story in the Big Hype project that I'm not sure when it's hitting Kickstarter. It's probably hitting Kickstarter next year. And I have a large, I think it's like a 15, 16 page story in that. And then I have one more unannounced book, one more unannounced anthology appearance that I'm making that I can't talk about I'm presuming it's going to be late 2021.
Okay. So everything. You're literally doing everything.
Yeah. That was, I was really hesitant to do Kickstarter until after Dryfoot. And I saw so many of my friends this year do amazing Kickstarters, and they were just fantastic. And so I really want to do 2 next year. I don't know if I have that in me, but I'm going to try and knock out 2 next year. But yeah, at least through the first half of the year, I'm on everything,
So if we were fans of your work from Dryfoot, we're going to get plenty more work from you, and that's exciting because I think we are fans of Dryfoot. So
yeah, it's very different work too, which is what I think is so exciting. Like my Black Hole story is really it's a sci-fi story. It's really action adventure-y and it's fun. I have the Kickstarter project I'm bringing is really different, fantasy, sort of sci-fi, sort of mythology thing. I've got I'm doing a horror thing in another anthology, and then my Big Hype project is like really intense and heavy about like existentialism and dying, and so it's just going to be really varied, and I'm really excited about that because I really want to show people that Dryfoot is funny. It's got its heavy themes, but I really want to show people just how varied and how wide ranging I like to go, and my interests are.
Nice. No, I think that's cool. I think that's great to see this diverse. Like you don't know what you're going to get, but you know it's going to be quality writing. And I think that's
Right.
the aspect. And because, you know, whether you like, you know, different things, it's something for a little bit of everyone. And I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and you know that's I think anybody who shoehorns themselves is to one specific genre or something. It's really limiting your own ability.
Right.
You know, Dryfoot's really crimey and it's really realistic, but everything else is sort of just like, no, let's just see what X or Y thing is going to look like. Let's just kind of experiment but yeah, it's really I really am one of those people that wants to dabble in everything. I want to give everything a chance and kind of see what turns out.
So you, with all these different projects that you have coming up, and you know, even with Dryfoot, how do you go about figuring out who you're going to work with? I'm sure it's different for different cases and different scenarios, but like, how's that process for you of like who you're going to work with writing and lettering and coloring? And
So if I can help it, I try and get someone else to make that decision most of the time. Like because I can spend forever doing that. With Dryfoot, they chose everybody for me, and that was cool. Not for me, they told me who I was going to be working with, and I was just so happened to be like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And then with another story, the other miniseries, that was a group that I got together with for the pitch. So that was really cool. They're all my friends, and so it was just kind of worked out really well. The big hype story, I think I got everybody given to me. They just kind of told me what I was doing because I told them I didn't have time to look someone up. But everything else is like, it's generally, you know, if I'm not looking for something super specific, if I don't have a really good image of what I want the book to look like, I just ask my friends pretty much. I have a lot of really talented art friends that I just kind of like, hey, I have X or Y opportunity and I really need someone I can rely on, someone I already know I like working with. So let's kind of see who's busy and who's got time to help me out with it. So that's kind of been worked out in my favor. I know Justin, the letterer for Dryfoot, I don't think Justin's ever turned down work in his life. So
that guy letters more books than I think I read in a week.
Yeah. So if I'm ever like, oh man, you know, I need a letterer and I can't figure out anybody else, I'm always just gonna reach out to Justin, you know. But yeah, it's really just a matter of like, who do I know is available, who do I know is busy, and but like with the Kickstarter book, I had to find someone. I was looking for something super specific, and I wanted to work with an artist who was Mexican. I wanted to work with a Mexican artist because the book deals heavily with Aztec mythology and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was, so that was like one of the things I told myself I had to find. So I had to reach out, find someone that I hadn't worked with before, and we started kind of going together, and we worked out really well. So yeah, if I don't have to choose someone, if I know I have a friend who's available, that's usually what I do.
Well, Jared, thank you so much for just taking some time to talk comics with me. Before we officially wrap up, is there anything else that you just want to share? Is there, or at least how people can find you if you don't have anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah, no. If you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jared Lujan, just spelled like my name in the description. Yeah, you can just go on there and see me tweet about what I'm working on and books that I like and the Wu-Tang Clan, things like that. Instagram, if you like dogs, I post pictures of my dog pretty regularly on Instagram. She is like the cutest dog of all time. But and then in my website, lujanwrites.com. I have a bunch of free comics that are short, and you can kind of check out and see what I'm kind of into and the things that I like to write about right there. And a bunch of them I have like 5 or 6 free short comics on there. So
nice. Yeah, and all the links, YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and the website, those are all in the description of this video below. So make sure you guys click on those links. Follow Jared, because I'm sure you're gonna need to follow him to get all the news of when these books are dropping that he's going to be just cover with. And I like how you just suddenly like dropped in a Wu-Tang like on your Twitter. You're like, yeah, Wu-Tang.
Yeah, I talk about the Wu-Tang so much. I talk about Wu-Tang Clan like regularly. Like I'm my comics feed, my Twitter feed is like comics, 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 and then I'm like, hey, this album from 20 some odd years ago is still really good. You know?
So you can also find on his page then reaction videos as he watched the Wu-Tang Clan documentary. That's awesome. Well, Jared, thank you so much again for your time. I appreciate you just taking some time to talk comics with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for supporting Dryfoot. Those of you that have, and Dryfoot is available in your local comic shop. If you haven't bought Dryfoot, if you're watching this interview and you think, hey, maybe that guy's got something of value, you can always tell your comic shop. The second printing still has a few copies available. Number 2 still has copies available. They can still get them, or you can get them all on madcapestudios.com.
Yeah, and so if you haven't done that, what are you doing?
What are you waiting on?
Go to your LCS, get some Dryfoot, and live your life and enjoy it, because it will help you do that. So thank you again, Jared. And for all you watching, make sure you follow along Jared so you can know all his stuff, what his comics are dropping, because it sounds like 2021 is busy. And with that being said, hopefully you all can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.